Hello everyone, my name is David. Today we are going to take a look at another real story with you. The 90s era was coming to an end when a case occurred in India that caused a massive uproar across the nation. The reason was that the news was covered by both national and international media, and for an entire year, the case remained shrouded in mystery like a puzzle. There was immense pressure on the police and even on the Indian government to solve it. And when the case was finally resolved, what came to light was something that had never happened before. Many similar things happened later, but nothing like this had occurred before. This story is from 1997. In that year, a 25-year-old woman named Diana Claire Rowley, who was living in Auckland, New Zealand, came to India for a trip. Diana was studying in London at the time. Her father lived in Auckland, New Zealand, and was a government engineer. Diana was his youngest daughter. While studying in London, she also worked part-time, so money wasn't an issue. When her holidays began, she told her father that she wanted to visit India. She loved traveling, exploring different cultures and places. Her father agreed. In the first week of August 1997, Diana arrived in New Delhi from London. She stayed in Delhi for a day, then traveled to Agra to see the Taj Mahal. After visiting the Taj Mahal, her next destination was Varanasi. She wanted to see their culture. On August 7, 1997, Diana reached Varanasi. After arriving, she checked into a guest house, the Old Vishnu Guest House. She checked into that guest house and was given room number 103. Diana had a routine. Every night before going to bed, she would call her parents in New Zealand. Whenever her parents heard her voice, they felt at peace, knowing their daughter was safe. On August 7th, she explored nearby areas. She stayed there on August 8th and again on August 9th. August 10th was supposed to be her last day in Varanasi. She had a train booked for the morning of August 11th at 7 a.m. from Varanasi to Darjeeling, as she wanted to explore Darjeeling next. After visiting Darjeeling, she planned to go to Kolkata. On August 10th, she went out to explore and asked someone at the guest house where the nearest post office was. That was a time when mobile phones and other technologies weren't very common, so for ISD calls, one had to rely on landlines and related services. She had written a letter to her parents, sharing memories of her 8 to 10 days of travel across India, what she had seen, where she had been, who she met. She loved sharing every little detail of her journey with her parents. They had a very close and warm relationship, so she wrote down the story of her journey in a letter and posted it from Varanasi. On August 10th, she also spoke to her family for the last time. Her family knew that on August 11th, she had a train to Darjeeling in the morning. After that, night fell. Then came August 12th, and then August 13th. But Diana didn't call home. Ever since she had arrived in India, she had made it a routine to call her parents in New Zealand every night without fail to let them know she was safe. But now, 2 whole days had passed since she left Varanasi for Darjeeling, and there was no call from her. Her parents were now extremely worried. Her father, sitting thousands of kilometers away, didn't know what to do. But he did know exactly where she had stayed in Varanasi. Diana used to share every little detail. She even gave them the contact number of the guest house where she was staying and used the same phone line to call home. So her father called the guest house and asked if his daughter Diana had stayed there. They replied, yes, she stayed here from the 7th to the 10th and checked out on the 10th. They also knew she was supposed to leave on the morning of the 11th. But after that, the guest house staff said they had no further information. They were also surprised that a call had come all the way from New Zealand, inquiring about her. Her father then contacted the embassy. By this time, 4 to 5 days had already passed. He informed the New Zealand embassy, which then contacted the Indian government. The news reached senior police officials in Varanasi, and a search was initiated. But there were no leads, no trace of Diana. Time kept passing, and still there was no sign of her. Eventually, Diana's father flew to India himself to search for his daughter. By now, quite a few days had passed. and they still had no idea where their daughter was. Her father's name was Alan Jack. Alan Jack arrived in Delhi and then traveled to Varanasi, having already informed the embassy of everything. When he reached India, there were other family members still back home in New Zealand. He had come alone. While he was in Varanasi, he called home, and that's when the family told him they had received a letter from Diana. It was the one she had posted from Varanasi. So they called Mr. Alan Jack and informed him about the letter they had just received. In the letter, Diana described her entire journey so far. Along with that, she wrote one small but very important detail. She said that she was very happy in Varanasi, amazed by its culture, and felt fascinated by everything she saw. She also mentioned that the guide she had met there was very good. He had shown her the lanes of Banaras, the Ghats, and spoke fluent English. She even mentioned the name of the guide in the letter. His name was Dharmdev Yadav. As soon as her father learned this, he went to the guest house and asked, "Do you know anyone named Dharmdev Yadav?" And then some information came to light. At the same guest house where Diana had stayed, the guide Dharmdev Yadav was also connected. The staff mentioned that Dharmdev Yadav was their favorite guide. When asked why, they explained that there was no language barrier with him. He spoke fluent English. In the past, he had been a rickshaw driver for many years. Gradually, after driving rickshaws and taking foreign tourists, he realized that learning English would be more beneficial, so he decided to study it. He started learning English and soon spoke it fluently, able to handle any foreign tourist. After getting this information from the guest house, Diana's father confirmed that Dharmdev Yadav was the person she was last seen with, and she had even mentioned him in her letter. The case had now reached the embassy and the police. The police instructed that Dharmdev Yadav be called in for questioning. However, shockingly, it was discovered that Dharmdev Yadav had also disappeared on the same day, August 11th, 1997, the day Diana checked out of the guest house. He was simply gone. This struck the police as very strange, disappearing on the same day as Diana. It also raised the possibility that maybe Diana had liked the guide so much that she asked him to accompany her as a guide to other places. Maybe he even went with her to Darjeeling. Then there was also the plan to visit Nepal. So the police sent a team toward Nepal, and another search was carried out in Darjeeling. Diana's father personally traveled to Darjeeling and then to Nepal, but no trace was found. What was truly puzzling was that if she had gone with the guide willingly, why did she suddenly stop calling or writing to her father and family? She had never skipped a single day before. That's what made everyone uneasy. Was something wrong? Meanwhile, the police were searching for Dharmdev Yadav, but the guest house staff didn't even know where he lived. He had just started working there like many others who come to live in Varanasi, and no one had really asked much about his background. Now the police were facing a serious problem. Dharmdev Yadav had vanished. The search continued, and slowly, the year turned from 1997 to 1998. Diana was last seen checking out of the guest house on August 11th, 1997. Now it was August 1998. A full year had passed. In that time, her father had made 3 or 4 trips to India, each time leaving empty-handed. The police had investigated. The embassy had been involved. But no clue had been found. Time kept passing, and hope was slowly fading. Then, suddenly, on August 18th, 1998, 1 year later, the officer in charge of the police station near the guest house in Varanasi received a tip from an informant. The informant said, "Sir, the Dharmdev Yadav we've been looking for was spotted at the railway station in Banaras." A police team rushed to the station immediately. They searched the area and eventually they found Dharmdev Yadav. Some staff members from the guest house had gone along with the police and were able to identify him on the spot. The police quickly detained him. At first, Dharmdev tried to make excuses and avoid giving answers, but the police were suspicious. This man had been missing and on the run for a whole year. Something was definitely wrong. They noticed he was wearing decent clothes and appeared well kept, which didn't match someone who was supposedly hiding in fear. So the police got tough with him. Under pressure, he finally broke down and told his story. After hearing his story, he replied, "If you want to know about Diana, you'll have to come to my house." His house was located about 9 kilometers from the guest house where Diana had stayed. Near Varanasi, there's a village called Vrindavan. This Vrindavan is close to Varanasi. The police team arrived in the village and was shocked to see Dharmdev Yadav's house. It was a large, well-built 7-room house. They were stunned. A guide who was once a rickshaw puller. How did he afford this? They learned from locals that he used to tell people a story. Once, a foreign tourist, whom he claimed was his girlfriend, was so happy with his service that before leaving, she gave him a reward of $8,000. That's the story he told everyone, and with that money, he built this entire house. He had a wife and a small son. His first wife had mysteriously died. No one knew how. He had remarried, and the second wife had a 3-year-old child. The police team reached his village, Vrindavan. When they got there, the house was locked. He took out the key and opened the door. Inside were 7 rooms. He walked them through each room one by one. Then, outside one specific room, he stopped and said, "Let's go into this one." They entered the room with him. There was a bed, and the entire floor, ceiling, and walls were neatly plastered and finished. Dharmdev looked at the bed and said to the officers, "Please move this bed." The police told him, "You help move it too." So together they shifted the bed out of the room. Then he pointed to the exact spot and said, "Start digging right here." While all this was happening, his wife had already arrived. Since Dharmdev had been arrested the day before, word had reached her. She had come with their child. Seeing the police and the crowd, she was nervous. She entered the house. The room where this digging was happening, the one where the bed had been, was the same room where she and her son had been sleeping for the past year. His wife still had no idea what was going on. She kept asking, "Why are you removing the bed from my bedroom? Why are you digging up the floor?" But no one gave her an answer. Slowly, the digging began. As the digging got deeper, the police, along with the wife, stood watching. Suddenly, a skeleton appeared from beneath the ground. When it was pulled out, the wife was still standing nearby. Dharmdev Yadav pointed to the remains and said, "Sir, this is Diana. On August 13th, 1997, 2 days after she went missing, I strangled her in this very room. Then I dug a pit right here, buried her, plastered over it, and placed a bed on top, so no one would ever suspect anything. But I always had guilt in my heart. That's why I changed my bedroom and started sleeping in this room with my son." As soon as his wife heard this, she fainted and collapsed on the floor. It took her nearly half an hour to regain consciousness. When she woke up, she started screaming, saying, "For an entire year I've been sleeping on top of a corpse. My son has been sleeping here too, and I had no idea." She began feeling disgusted with herself, filled with a deep sense of horror and fear. The skeletal remains were collected and sent to the hospital. The New Zealand authorities were informed, though they had already been notified a day earlier when Dharmdev Yadav had been arrested. Mr. Alan Jack flew once again from New Zealand to Varanasi. After arriving, he met Dharmdev and asked, "Why did you kill my daughter?" Dharmdev told the full story. He said, "I showed Diana around Varanasi for 3 days. We became so close that whenever she ate, whether lunch or dinner, or we were out during the day, she would make me sit at her table and eat with her. She never treated me differently. Never made me feel like I was just a guide or beneath her or poor. She treated me with respect like an equal, and I showed her around with full sincerity. On the morning of August 11th, she was supposed to leave for Darjeeling at 7 a.m. Only I knew that detail. Over the 3 or 4 days we spent together, I also learned that Diana was carrying around $6,000, $7,000 in cash. She had a decent amount of money. During those days, I also realized that she wanted to stay longer in India. She had told me, "I want to see the real India." You must have seen in films. Real India often means poverty, poor neighborhoods, slums, hunger. Foreigners are often fascinated by that side of the country. That's when the idea struck me. I said, "If you want to see the real India, come to my village with me." She replied, "But I have to go to Darjeeling." I told her, "You can go to Darjeeling later. Why spend extra money traveling back and forth? I can reschedule your ticket through a local agent I know. You won't lose any money. We'll just move your travel by a day or two." Diana agreed, and that became the biggest mistake of her life. Instead of taking her to Darjeeling, I brought her to my village, to that 7-room house. My wife and son weren't there. They had gone to her parents' home. I had 3 friends with me. On the first day, everything was fine. I showed her around the village. Then came August 12th. That day also passed peacefully. I showed her more of the village. But then came August 13th. That night, the 3 of us, me and my friends, were drinking local alcohol. We got drunk. And then a wicked thought crept in. All 3 of us tried to force ourselves on Diana, but she was a brave girl. She tried to defend herself and then started screaming. She also threatened, "I will go to the police." That threat scared all of them. The 4 men panicked, and to silence her, they began strangling her, especially Dharmdev Yadav. During the struggle, Diana died. After her death, the men were terrified, but instead of stopping, they continued drinking through the night. The next morning, Dharmdev called a mason and a laborer to one of the rooms in the house that wasn't being used. He told them to dig a pit in the floor. Once they finished, he paid them and sent them away. That night, after more drinking, they placed Diana's body in the pit. The following day, Dharmdev called the same laborer again and had the floor plastered over. After it was sealed, he moved a bed from his bedroom into that room, laid a mattress on top, and began using it as his bedroom again. All his friends left, and then he called his wife and son back home. So, for the next full year, he slept in that very room, with his wife and child, on top of the buried corpse, without anyone suspecting a thing. When the full story came out, the case went to court. In 2002, the lower court gave its verdict. Dharmdev Yadav was sentenced to death. The other 3 did not receive the same punishment due to a lack of solid evidence proving they helped strangle Diana. They were given lighter sentences. The verdict was challenged in the Allahabad High Court. The High Court upheld the decision, confirming that Dharmdev Yadav had lured and killed a foreign tourist and sentenced him to death again, backing the lower court's ruling. He then appealed to the Supreme Court. The case continued there for several years. Finally, on April 11, 2014, 16 years after the incident, the Supreme Court gave its decision. The court said that there were no direct eyewitnesses in the case. Everything was based on circumstantial evidence. The skeleton found in the house had been DNA matched with Mr. Alan Jack, Diana's father, confirming it was indeed Diana. But there were no witnesses to Diana being taken to the village, to her murder, or to her burial. So, while the circumstantial evidence strongly pointed to Dharmdev, the court concluded that this did not qualify as a rarest of rare case under Indian law, which is required for the death penalty. Therefore, the death sentence was not upheld. Therefore, the Supreme Court changed the verdicts of the lower court and the High Court, reducing Dharmdev Yadav's sentence to 20 years in 2014. By that time, Dharmdev had already served 16 years in jail, and with the addition of 4 more years, he completed his 20-year sentence. In 2019, he was released from jail. After his release, his whereabouts remain unknown, but it's possible that he is still somewhere, living under a different name and face, blending into the population. This case highlights some of the flaws in India judicial system. A girl who came to India to travel, only to mysteriously disappear, then be murdered. This entire story was covered in the New Zealand newspapers. Alan, her father, had traveled from New Zealand to Varanasi for the trial, hoping that Dharmdev Yadav would receive the harshest punishment possible under the law. When the death sentence was handed down, Alan was overjoyed. He said, "If they hang him, I won't regret it." He spent nearly $100,000, his entire savings, on his daughter's case. But what happened? The Supreme Court reduced the killer's sentence to just 20 years, and after serving that, he was set free. Now he walks freely, likely living under a different identity, if he's still alive. This was the reality of the case. So this was today's story. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We hope you enjoyed the content and found it valuable.